When it comes to the world of content creators, there is a very common consensus that content creators are really only there to sell you on things. Well, in today's episode, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Let's go. Whenever I'm watching gardening content, I see a lot of people say, you need this to have a successful garden. You need that to have a successful garden. And when in reality, a lot of these things are not needs, they're more or less wants or luxuries. And in today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down those top 7 needs to really show you that you don't actually have to have them. You don't need to have them. But I think that as beginning gardeners, we're very impressionable, and we hear someone that has whether it be a large following or a lot of gardening experience, maybe has a beautiful garden themselves, and they seem as a trustworthy source to go to. And a lot of times we don't really understand that a lot of these things may seem like needs, but they're not actually needs. And to a beginning gardener, this can add a lot of cost, it can add a lot of confusion, it can add a lot of kind of barriers to entry or barriers to getting started, when in reality, getting started with gardening is pretty simple. So the first thing that a lot of people say you need are grow lights. Now, I've been on the record as saying that grow lights are not a need, they are a want. Reason being is you don't have to have grow lights in order to have a successful garden. Why? Well, because you don't have to start your seeds indoors. You could start your seeds right outdoors if you want to. You do not have to have these expensive grow lights. Are they a want? For me, absolutely, because I do like to get my garden started early, but they are not a need. You could start your seeds outside. You could start a tomato seed outside. In late April, early May, throw a seed right in the ground and be maybe 3 to 4 weeks behind where I'm at starting seeds indoors. It's fun for me to get my hands in dirt earlier. It's fun for me to see things growing indoors. It's fun for me to have a little more longer growing season being here in Michigan where our season is a little bit shorter, but it's by no means a need. The second thing you do not need to have a successful garden is a heat mat. Now, I've been on the record as saying that heat mats can cause more harm than good if you don't know how to use them properly. And that is absolutely why it's not a need. Because a heat mat absolutely is a want, it's a luxury, it can help you start seeds indoors or in cool climates, but you absolutely can wait. Because if you use a heat mat wrong, or you use the wrong seeds on a heat mat that don't need the heat, you can actually damage the seedlings. There's no point in hurting your garden or setting your garden back if you could have just taken those seeds, planted them directly outside when the soil has warmed up to 55, 60 degrees in early to mid-May, well out of the threat of frost. You're going to be just fine, and you don't need a heat mat. A heat mat is used in certain circumstances when you're trying to grow in adverse conditions, when a seed normally wouldn't want to grow or grow slowly. In a cool room like this where it's 55, 60 degrees, or out in an unheated garage, or if you're just trying to kind of jumpstart pepper seeds or seeds that like warm soil, a heat mat's great. Is it a need? It's most certainly not. And we sell heat mats. We have our name on a heat mat. And I'm here to tell you it's not a need, it's a want. And I want to be really clear there because, again, I want to be that difference maker. I want to be the content creator that says, sure, we have these things, you don't need them though. It's only if you want them. The third thing you don't need to have a successful garden, and this one is going to come as a surprise to you, is seed starting trays. Now, I love seed starting trays. I don't think I could ever have a garden without them, but you don't need them. You can take a solo cup. If you're starting seeds indoors, you could have a solo cup, poke some holes in the bottom, a yogurt container, take a hot nail and melt some holes through. Don't hold the hot nail, obviously. Hold it with a pair of pliers, put it underneath a flame and pop some holes in there, or just take a nail and work some holes through just for good drainage. It's really all you need to grow in. You don't need necessarily to have growing containers. Now, I personally like growing with these. Again, it's a want. I want something that's going to be durable. I want something that's going to last me years. I want something that I can just throw into my dishwasher, clean up, use from year to year. I want something that just looks a little more clean and tidy. I want something that looks a little more professional. Those are all wants. Notice how I say I want those things? I don't need those things. I had a garden for many, 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 many years growing out of yogurt containers, and that was totally fine by me. Absolutely fine. It's just over time, my style has changed and my wants have changed, and that's entirely fine. I could rest very well at night going to bed knowing that I'm growing my seedlings in yogurt containers. I'm not losing any sleep over that. It's just, when I showcase my stuff to people, it's nice to have a nice clean look. It's nice to have really robust containers that last year in and year out. And they're just nice, okay? They're just nice, but they're wants, they're not needs. You can also completely avoid starting seeds in any container at all and just, again, put them right in the soil. Like I just said, with grow lights and heat mats and these seed starting trays, these are indoor seed starting equipment. Who said you need those things? They are wants for sure, and they will absolutely help you grow sooner. If you want to grow sooner, you need them, right? But if you don't want to grow sooner, that's why those three things are wants, because you don't have to start sooner. You don't have to at all. No one is forcing you to start your garden a month or two sooner. If you don't have the money, you don't have the know-how, you don't have the space or the resources, screw it. Put your seeds right in the ground, and I guarantee you, if you give them what they need outside, they're gonna do fine. Next thing you don't need is a greenhouse. I see so many people say, you need a greenhouse. I mean, a greenhouse is a necessity. It allows you to grow anytime during the year. You absolutely do not have to have a greenhouse. I love having a greenhouse because it does allow us to start sooner. It does allow us to grow longer into the season. I mean, heck, we have lettuce growing in there right now. That's fun, but you don't need it. You absolutely do not have to have a greenhouse. You can grow underneath a cold frame, a low tunnel, a caterpillar tunnel. You can grow crops during the main growing season. Who said you have to have a garden during winter? Is it nice? Absolutely. But if nature wouldn't naturally allow a garden to be growing, you don't have to have a greenhouse. You could also completely avoid that. And like I said, just grow during the main growing season because it is a little bit crazy. But a greenhouse is really nice, don't get me wrong. Next thing you don't need, and this is gonna come as a shocker to a lot of you, is you don't even need raised beds. I love growing in raised beds. Raised beds allow us to grow higher up. We're not trampling the soil, we're not compacting the soil, we don't have to rototill or loosen the soil. You absolutely can garden as people have been gardening for thousands of years in ground. Raised beds allow you to grow food where you might not otherwise be able to grow food. You may have a concrete slab. You can't grow in a concrete slab. But aside from those cases, if you have workable, tillable soil, all you need to do is amend that soil where you're at. You can work that soil, loosen it up with things like compost and worm castings, gypsum, broken down leaves, yard waste, and over time you're going to have great soil, and you do not need to have raised beds. They are a little more work to grow in ground. There's a little more seasonal changeover you have to do, but if you don't want raised beds, don't use them. I like the aesthetic. I like the fact that they're higher up. I like the fact that they're a little more organized, and I also like the fact that I can choose my quality soil, and whereas the soil underneath isn't that great, the soil I put in these raised beds is top tier. So I have an easier time having a successful garden, but is it a need? Absolutely not. It'd be so wrong of me to say that these are a need. These are a want. And the seventh and final thing that you do not need to have a successful garden is me. As beginning gardeners, I know that we often feel like a content creator or a guru is going to be someone that we need by our side to hold our hand to have a successful garden. But I would tell you this, when I first started out gardening, YouTube was not even in existence. YouTube was not a thing. I learned through my own personal experiences. I learned through reading books. I also learned from people in my family. I just learned from osmosis, right? I was just out in the garden with them, and I learned just by being out in the garden. And so many of those life lessons and those mistakes that I made me the gardener that I am today. I did not watch gardening content when I first started out gardening. Heck, I didn't start watching gardening content until probably, 8-9 years ago. For the first 3 or 4 years of me uploading content, I was one of the first YouTube channels to actually produce gardening content. And so there was maybe 3 or 4 other people producing gardening content, and they weren't really people that I necessarily found myself watching all the time. I knew that they existed. I just watched other things like video game content or snowboarding videos, other things that interested me. I was not watching gardening content, learning how to garden. And so, I find that content creators nowadays can be, not all the time, I want to be very clear, there's a lot of amazing ones out there, incredible ones out there, but there are some that they have this God complex where they think, these people need me. And that's the reality check, is you don't need me. You have all the information at the ability to grow a garden at your fingertips. The information is all out there in the real world. You just have to experience it. And so much of our knowledge is up here. We just constantly become dependent on someone telling us things that we need or things that we should do or information that we should apply to our gardens. And so that's why I'm incredibly honored and humbled that you watch our videos and watch our content and enjoy our content, because at the end of the day, you don't need our content. You just kind of want our content. And I like that. I appreciate that. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. As always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you that if you did enjoy our content and you do want to keep watching our content, make sure you subscribe, like our videos and share our videos with a friend, but make sure to tell them they don't need to watch, only if they want to. So as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting MIgardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care. Bye.